why do I feel like I've been here before? Probably because I have. But you might notice, you know, it's a little cooler out today. I think last time I looked it was like 44 degrees. Not horrible, but for this Florida boy, that's pretty cool. But I've been in Tennessee for some 16, almost 17, almost 18 years now, so I should be acclimated, right? And that's not, like right now I'd be freezing. I wouldn't be able to do anything. So I've acclimated. But I still don't necessarily like the cold. And I have a hard time getting motivated in the cold. If you watched the last video, you will see that I had my hands in all sorts of fluids and creams and chemicals and lubricants and stuff, right? And that stuff gets cold. If I let it sit in the shop, I could stick it all inside of, I've got a little heated room back there, but it's very small. It's for doing carburetors and small intricate work when you can't have cold fingers doing it, you know what I mean? So I do have a little room in there I can put heat on and what have you. I do have blast heaters I can run, but they're super noisy. And I think a couple of videos from last winter, you can probably see some of that. But so anyway, I just don't get motivated real quick in the wintertime, so it's kind of slow getting out here. But this is a long weekend. I kept building up to this. Yesterday was Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, by the way. Belated, right? Because for you, it's going to be like a week later. For me, it's a day later. It was yesterday. Yesterday, I did nothing. I spent time with the family, got myself, put on a few pounds, But my wife was like, you did nothing but eat all day. It's like, yep. So hopefully your Thanksgiving was as good as mine. Now I got to do some work to shed some of these pounds I put on, right? So anyway, today we are going to button everything up, okay? I don't know that I'm going to get the transmission in today. Probably not. I guess not. My goal is oil pan, timing cover, intake manifold, button her up, valve covers. Get this thing in the dry. I guess if you're building houses, you'd call it, you've got it dried in. Okay. That's where I want this engine. I want it dried in. I want the valve covers and the intake and the carburetors and all the tin on it to make it a whole engine. Then if we have a little time, I want to start getting the flywheel and the bell housing and the throw-up bearing and all that good stuff ready to go. So all we have to do, if I don't get that far this weekend, which I probably won't because there's still some family time that's got to be done, a little shopping, Love shopping. But anyway, but we are going to go to Harbor Freight. They got a sale on a jack for like $100 for the 3-ton, which is like normally $269-ish or something like that. So I'm going to go get me one. But now this is not a commercial for Harbor Freight. The sale will be over by the time you see this. So, it is what it is. But that's our goal for this weekend. It might be a little sporadic. I do have some customers coming by. I got one guy picking up an engine and strong, picking up engines. Just go with it. Anyway, so that's where we're at. If I get the oil pan on and the front timing cover on, and the valve covers on, and the intake on, and not necessarily in that order, I'll be happy. Maybe pour some oil down the throat. We're going to do a lot of that while we're assembling the rocker assembly. You'll see that. I'll walk you through that. And again, we're going to do a little lubricating. I'm not going to get too terribly messy, and you'll see why. But that's where we're at, so I'm going to stop talking now, and let's get started. Now we're going from lubricants to sealants. I'm just using regular everyday Permatex gasket maker fuel resistant. All right, it's not really important on this. This is not going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? This is not crucial. I mean, it is crucial. Oh, there's a little bit of Earl residue there. So let's get ourselves a cleanish rag. This is such a press fit that it isn't likely that the sealant that we're going to put on it has anything to do with it sealing, if that makes any sense. It's a press fit. It has this coating on it. that red coating. It's just basically paint, I think, but I mean, it's going to take up any minute little spots, shall we say, that it may, maybe it has a flaw in there somewhere, but I'm not. This isn't very, very important. You can use pretty much whatever sealant you choose to use. And again, I'm going to do the old finger licking good here, because I just like doing it that way. You can control the amount you're using, and I'm just going to put a little dab will do you. I'm just going to smear it around the outside. Just keep doing little dabs until we got a good coat all the way around. Like I said, it's not going to be critical, because the press fit is going to do the job for you pretty much. This is just in case this is a 30-year-old cover, which it's probably at least that. We just don't want it to, it may have a flaw, is what I'm trying to say. And if it has a flaw, then we need to, take that flaw up with something. Now, this is, I have it set in level, so this should just pound right in. Now, the problem is I got to find something roughly that size that I can pound it in with. Now I'm going to pretend that this is an exact science, but it's not. And I'm going to try my best to just hit this evenly. Alright, but, science being what it is and human error being what it is, we may or may not get this on the first shot. So, as you can see, it went to one side, and that may, as you can see, this Chevy is a lot more forgiving than that Dodge truck was. You saw what I did wrestling with that Dodge truck. Now, it may or may not be all the way in. I'm going to have to put my spectacles on. There's a little bit of Permatex on the outside. It ain't going to hurt nothing as long as it's not on the lip. We're going to look and see. Looks like it is down all the way. I bought one of these fancy Harbor Freight lights, and it's right here at my fingertips somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's see how good it works for like $1 or $2. I forget how much it was. Like $2. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna look in there. Oh yeah, she's bottomed out. Looks bottomed out to me. Yep. Show is okay. So that V-mounted. It's just barely flush. Seems the same all the way around. Yeah, $2, right? $2. And I think it's magnetic. Yep. Magnetic. So anyway, alright. Enough of that. So there you go. Now that's in. I know the paint job isn't so great. Yeah, anyway. Did it in a hurry. Don't really care though. You can't really see this thing when it's in there anyway. So make sure I didn't get any debris in here. Debris. Whatever. Anyway, okay, so that's ready to go. Now, expensive tools right here. Now we're going to put it here. And we've got the other gasket right here. Now, this gasket I also have, but we're not going to use it. And you ask why? Because it goes here, right? But if you remember in one of the other videos, I showed you that we have a oil pan gasket that includes this, so there won't be any seam in this area. But we will, when we put the pan on, we will put a little bit of goo in these corners, just because. But in the meantime, what we're going to do right here is, well, that just, you know, need to open up there, little girly. This is the problem with anything nowadays, you know, this has got to come out here like this. Make sure all my holes line up. And that's the reason we're going to put a little bit of juice on here. Because if I don't, the problem's going to be the gasket's not going to want to stay in place. And I got to put it on the front of the engine, right? So we're going to put a little bit of goo here. And when I say goo, I mean, you know, gasket maker, right? So we're going to do the same thing, get the fingers dirty. I'm not going to put any down here because the gasket doesn't go there, right? So we're just going to put it here. And this is just to get this timing cover on. We'll put the gloopy down there after we get this on. This seems awfully thin to me for some reason. But I'm okay with that because, again, we're just using it for an adhesive to hold the gasket. So I'm not real worried about that. According to Nick's Garage, I don't know if you've ever watched that. It's fairly interesting to watch if you like things like learning about engines. But Nick says, don't Permatex or silicone the crap out of it. My own paraphrase. Because the gasket does the sealing. And I don't think he's wrong. He's right. But I also think if you put the goo on there, I don't think it's going to necessarily hurt anything. But it does make it a pain in the asteroids if you have to go work on it again. You have to scrape all that back off. And sometimes the excess will get into stuff, and you know. So yes, a professional, you want your work to look good. You know, you don't want a bunch of goo hanging out the corners. You know, especially if you're charging people $10,000 for an engine build, you know. But if you, like me, I hate leaks. And I would sacrifice a little bit of pretty to know in my head and in my heart of hearts, that it ain't going to leak. So I don't think a little extra juice is going to hurt, but I wouldn't go like a thick bead on this by any means. This is simply to help the gasket stay in place while I put it on. Now, I actually am kind of doing things backwards, because now that I think about it, I can put the gasket, because there's pins on the engine itself, so I can actually put the gasket on the engine first. So we'll see how this works out. If it doesn't hold it well, then we'll put it on the engine instead. I think that's going to work out just fine. These holes have to line up with a pin, but as you can see, this RTV is holding it quite nicely. So let's move on over to the engine and slide this bad boy on. Fortunately for me, this one comes with a handle, so that makes my life a lot easier. Alright, so, oh, that was bad. There we go. Oh, jeez Louise. Alright, so let's get this gasket lined up. It's giving me a little fits, but I think we did good. But that's the good thing about putting it on the cover as opposed to the block, because if I put it on the block first and danced around like that, it's possible I may have moved the gasket around. So this way, let's go ahead and start putting on our bolts. Now, we're going to probably put these bottom ones in first because they're on the little liner uppers, and I want to make sure I pull these in before this, because this is, you know, not being nothing going to stop it from going in, as opposed to this. This can actually, you know, keep the gasket from actually touching. So we're going to make sure we tighten those up first. Now, something you may not realize is there's two longer ones, okay? Let's see if I can do this without messing. They're considerably longer than the other ones. And those are for this bottom corner, or are those for the, those may actually be for the oil pan. Hang on. Yeah. Yep, those are for the oil pan, my bad. Those are going to be for the oil pan where it comes up through this way. Okay, the rest of these are going to be the short ones. So we're just going to go ahead and throw those in. Here's where it's going to get a little bit weird, because it's a rubber gasket and it's the one with the little metal rings in it, so that you don't over tighten it, crush it to death. But here, if you look, what happens, we've got some obstacles. One is these little tits right here. Okay, they have to go into the holes in the timing cover. The other problem is, watch, it just slides, okay? So we are going to have to put a little bit of sticky juice, basically RTV. All right, this stuff seems to be awful thin, but I'm okay with that. But I'm going to put a thin coat, as usual. I am going to put a heavier bead here, and here, and here, and here. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can. Okay, so here, 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 and here, because that's where all the gaskets come together, right? So thin coat, bead, bead, thin coat, bead, bead. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the engine. Okay, and that way when we squish this gasket in here, these beads will get squished into the corners they need to get squished into, and hopefully the gasket itself will go into those spots and just push this all out. That's what we're hoping for. But I've cleaned this off pretty good. Again, we're going to have to get our finger dirty. So we're just going to put a light coating. This stuff does seem awful, awful thin. There might be a little oil residue on here. I wiped it pretty good, but might be a little bit. But again, with this, we're going to let the gasket do the sealing. This is basically just to hold it in place until we can, yeah, there's a little oil there. That's going to make things slippery too. Just kind of do this and then put it on. To my Killer Kowalski stuff, because whatever reason that particular juice was junk. It was super thin, it was running off, wasn't sticky at all. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna not use that. So anyway, I'm gonna put a dab here, right on this corner here, because this is one of them areas, you know. And I'm going to put a dab here, because that's, again, one of those areas. Okay? And the same up front here, which is actually the timing cover, but where that all comes together, we want to put a dab there. Okay? And that's all we're doing on this one. We're just making sure that all of this, when it comes together, isn't going to leak. So, there we go. Here we go, just walking down the street. Okay, no, that's not even appropriate for that, but it is, whatever. Okay, so just hang tight, it's going to be a second. Now this is going to be challenging because we don't want to booger up the gasket, but at the same time, I got to try to get a bolt in. So, I'm going to put the bolt here in the back because by putting it in the back, it's going to allow it to droop in the front, and I'm going to show you why here in a minute. As soon as I can get these to go in. Come on, girlie. There we go. I think that other goo will be adequate for sticking. Alright, well, this is not. It's a little bit harder because the gasket is not wanting to squish very much. Now, here's where I got issues, is I can't see nothing for starters. And this has to go in all those little holes. So, I'm going to have to drop the car down a little bit, and I'm going to have to try to finagle those little tits into the holes that's supposed to go in. Yay. I can't get a good camera angle while I'm working, so I'm just going to kind of show you. But if you look right here, you can see that little nib is sticking up. Now, I do not see that all the way around. You should see little nibs here, and here, and here. Okay, this one's coming up too. This one is, I can feel this one coming up as well. So, alright, so we're just going to run the bolts all the way through, and hopefully we're going to get all those little nibs to pop up. Now, I've got all of my bolts in and snugged, but this gasket has little metal rings in it, and that's so you can't over torque this gasket. But does that mean we can just go crank on it? No. What that means is we can give it a pretty good snugging and not have to worry about over torque. Because like gaskets that don't have the metal rings, they'll squeeze out, they'll ooze out. So you just got to kind of watch it till the gasket starts to squish. Well, that's ridiculous, I think. So I buy the ones with the metal. They're more money, don't get me wrong. You're going to pay a couple of dollars for them, you know what I mean? But get the ones with the metal rings, then you don't have to worry about over tight, right? That's pretty much it. It is a different size for the ones in the front. Those are, I believe, 7/16. So we did start with those, and I'm going to keep the 1/2 inch in my hand. We did start with those because, you know, you saw what the deal was with the front of the pan. So we're just going to snug them up and get those little doodahs to go through, get the sealer we put on there to ooze out. And it's been curing for a little bit while I've done certain things. You can't really see what's going on here, but I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. I'm just snugging it until it feels like it's snugging. You know what I'm saying? No, probably not. But I'm not cranking on it. I'm just snugging on it. And we're going to have to go through this a few times because as you snug one, as I snug this one, oh, I got really loose. The other ones loosen up. That's just nature of the beast. Nature of the beast. This ratchet's being a little bit of a humdinger. She's got an attitude problem. But see, like I'm going to go back to my pneumatic. But actually, pneumatic is an improper word because it's electric, right? But evidently, we've in our movement here. Look at all that. Look at that. I had snugged all of those. There we go. Now let's go to the other side, do the same thing. Headers on the head, not good, doesn't feel good at all. Alright, those are all snug by the pneumatic or the electric or the whatever. Now, we'll check one more time over here, see where we're at. See, still a little bit of play in there. Now we can do it by hand. Make sure we're snugged up properly. Actually, I'm going to go one more time on the small one, the front ones. Because those are important. If it's going to leak, that's going to be where. Alright. Well, I'm going to go through it one more time, but I'm going to make you watch that because it's just, just going to make sure they're all good and snug, and then we're done with that part. I'm sorry, I got to stop right now because I got a comment on my last video by someone who thinks they know more than I do that my big old bug catcher for, I'll throw a picture of it in there so you can see. I got a big old bug catcher goes on the top of this. And he said, you put that big stupid thing on your engine. For a naturally aspirated engine. I guess he figures you have to have a blower to put those on there. Somebody forgot to tell him about cold air systems, right? I mean, people go through extremes to get cold air into their engine. I just stuck a big old fluffy hat on the top of this one. When I put the hood on it, all that hood heat is under the hood. And the cold air, guess what? It's going in the catcher, right? So, I don't know. You tell me. See, right? Am I stupid for putting a scoop on my car? That feeds directly into the engine. So, when I'm doing 100, it's breathing pretty cool, right? Getting some forced air in there, maybe improving a little bit of performance because you're getting some forced air without a blower. So, I don't know. You tell me. Is he smarter than I am? This is the other one that I kind of went, I don't get it. He said that putting a cam in an engine without putting headers, or with stock manifolds, I think he said stock manifolds, with stock manifolds is stupid. Take a look at this. I don't get it. Does Hooker make long tube side pipe manifolds? I don't know. You tell me. Is he smarter than I am? Here. Okay, just for a quick summarization, I went ahead and put the front end back together. Got the oil pan in. I think I showed you some of that. We got the front cover on. Got the oil filter in. I didn't show you some of that because, you've seen it before. So anyhow, so now, I've been saying so a lot. Jeez, it's a hard habit to break. I'm going to go topside. I've been tempted to go ahead and slop the transmission in while I'm on here, right? I'm underneath the car, and I thought, well, I kind of like to stick the tranny in. But, I kind of told you all we're going to dry this engine in. So, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go back up topside, and we're going to start putting the valve train together. We still got to put push rods in. We still got to put rocker arms in, not the studs, rocker arms. And then we got to adjust, because remember, this is a solid lifter cam. And solid lifter cams are not as easy as the, just setting that little preload 50 thousandths-ish quarter turn kind of stuff with the hydraulic ones. We've got to actually get a feeler gauge, and we have to, check the valve lash, which is on that card I showed you. Also, once we do adjust it and we start it up, now we got to readjust it once it's hot. So, yeah, the solid lifter cams are not for the faint of heart. You've got to be willing to put in the time. Do they have advantages? Yes. You can go a little bit higher lift with a solid lifter because you're not going to have that cushion and the possible valve float. You can still get valve float, but not as likely. It's a much more direct connection. So it's just kind of like an automatic transmission. With an automatic transmission, you're going to have some hydrostatic loss with that torque converter. And when you go direct with a clutch, it's there, right? Unless your clutch slips. So if you got a good solid clutch, you're getting all the mustard. Same with the solid lifter cam. You're basically getting all the mustard that cam has to offer. There's no cushion, there's no room for error, but you will get every ounce of horsepower and torque that cam is designed to give you, because there's no loss in the pumping of the lifter, shall we say. Are hydraulic lifters better? That's a matter of opinion. Yeah, I'd say probably yes, because they're more forgiving, they're more user-friendly, they run quieter. There's a lot of advantages to hydraulic lifter cams. But as far as performance goes, we're still in the solid lifter cam range, right? I mean, because performance loss, parasitic loss is basically what it's all about. Race transmissions are, they use clutch with an automatic. They still use an automatic because you cannot outshift an automatic. Lenkos, I think, are actually a standard transmission because you got to pull a lever, and I don't think there's a clutch though. I'm not sure. But anyway, there's advantages and disadvantages to everything. And for a street car, I personally would recommend a hydraulic. It is better for the street. You don't have to adjust it. Solid lifter, depending on how much you drive it. I don't drive this car a lot. Solid lifter will eventually work its way out of adjustment, and you'll have to readjust it maybe once a year if you drive the car a lot. More often, if you drive it a lot, and less if you don't drive it a whole lot. So this car will probably see the road, on weekends, 15 times, 20 times a year, probably, or more. It depends on what I feel like driving that day. So I probably won't be adjusting a whole lot, and I think I'm starting to ramble. You all don't care about this. So let's go ahead and get back to work. But that's the skinny on solid lifter, hydraulic lifter. Make your choice on that. For user friendliness, or if you're a novice, go with hydraulic. Enough said. Let's get back to work. First things first is I'm going to reuse the push rods. Some of them. I got a couple of new ones because some bent, obviously. But we're going to test on these and make sure they're round. That one's looking pretty good. Yep, it's good. Okay, so we're going to do this with each and every one of them. Make sure, that they're not bent, because if they're bent, we can't use them, because the push rod has to spin while it's going in. When it's going up and down, it also has to spin around, like this, right? And that spinning is what keeps it from becoming wearing, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Now we're also going to blow these out. Let me get a bent one, because I want to show you what a bent one looks like. Alright, now this one you can kind of tell, right? You can tell by looking at it. It's pretty bent. But this one, you can tell, but maybe not so much, right? But if we put it on here, see, it's got a big high spot. See that? Big old high spot. It's not going to roll. Look, it's just not going to. Okay, so it's a lot more noticeable when we do it that way. We're going to keep doing that with these. Usually if they roll by themselves like that, we're good to go. Look at that. Woo, that's true to self right there. Alright, I don't know if I want to bore you with doing all of these, but that one has got a little... Nope, it's good. It seemed like it had a little bit of a bump to it, but I'd say she's good. And we're kind of doomed here if we... Sometimes just the staining will make it look like it's bent. So that's why you're going to look and see if there's any light underneath it. But if they roll that good, this one's got a tiny little battle scar right there from evidently when things went awry earlier. Now, here's a brand new one. It better be round. Woo, there we go. All right. So we got a couple of brand new ones to replace those bent ones. Obviously looks good. Another non-new one. I'm sweating this because I don't have another push rod. It's going to delay me if I end up needing one. But we're not going to put a bent one in, that's for darn sure. There we go. These are looking good. Here we go. Now, I'll point something else out for big blocks. If I can find one. Here we go. Go this way. See anything different? They're different lengths, right? So, intake valve, exhaust valve, if you look at the heads are staggered. There's some valves down low, some valves up high. So you end up having different length push rods. Unlike a small block where they're all the same. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these old ones especially. I'm going to move my little table out of the way, which is no more than a transmission jack. You should always wear your safety glasses. And unfortunately, when I do this, these are prescription, so you're just a fuzz right now. I look all fuzzy. But I think I know who you are. Yeah, I know you. Yep, and you too? Yeah, I can recognize you, but I can't see nothing. But anyhow, taking a push rod, taking an air hose, making sure she's clear. Because the air is coming out the end, so I know that this one's good. You should always wear your safety glasses. And that's pretty much what I'm going to do for the next, 16. Now this is a new one, so it better be clear, Another new one. Here's another used one. I see it hitting my hand, right? It wants to blow it off. But that's all we're going to do is going to make sure we blow all the El Crapo out of here. Now you see how I'm putting my finger over the top? Make sure it's blowing? Yeah. Not necessarily. Necessarily? Celery. Not necessarily. Yeah, that's it. Just putting your finger over here, I've done that before, and a projectile will come out and hurt the finger, right? So it's not necessarily, said it right that time, the right thing to do. But if you just go like this, I can't tell. You don't want to go like this, right? I mean, I would not. Even with safety glasses, that's a bad idea. So I got no choice. Now you can blow it out first, then put the finger. That's probably smarter. But yeah, I have had projectiles come out of there, and it'll sting your finger pretty good. Because it's like 100 and something pounds, right? We'll keep on doing this, keep on. Whoa, that one. Okay, that's That one felt like it might have been clogged at one point. Every once in a while, you will see large amounts of stuff come out. You'll see big spray, especially if there's still oil in there or whatever. These have been cleaned in a tank already, so these are pretty much clear inside. I'm going to take my own advice and spray it that way first, and then put my finger over it, just in case I don't want an owie on my finger. Anyway, we only have a few more, but for you guys, we're going to move on to the next thing. Just for FYIs, the shorter push rod is for the intake valves because they are closer, obviously, right? They're closer. And the longer one is for the exhaust valves. Now, if you'll notice, I got my goo here. Right, so we're going to put some goo. I'm not going to be afraid to use some. And I'm not putting oil. I usually will soak these in oil, but I think we're better off putting some assembly lube on there because I did fill each one of these lifters with oil and they're dry now. So by using this stuff, I am sure I'm going to get, I should have done that on both sides, but okay. So we're going to do it on both sides because that's just the way to do it. That's just the way it is. Some things never change. I don't know, that goes something like that. Anyhow, here we go. And now we'll notice, I'm going to pull this one back out because I wanted to have it on both sides, so when I put these rocker arms, they will be ready to go. Alright, I'm trying not to touch it with my hands. There we go. And we're gonna, we got like 14 more to do. But I won't bore you with that. I'll let you come back when we get to the rocker arms. Now I'm gonna get a little dirty. I'm gonna put a little of this stuff on my finger. And I'm just gonna put it on the top of the valve. So on initial startup, everything will be lubricated. And again, with this stuff, too much is better than not enough. Alright, that's one side. You know, I'm a little bit upset because I could reuse these valve cover gaskets because they're rubber and they're still in halfway decent shape, but they're getting kind of stiff. They're not as pliable as they should be. So I called up the local parts store to order some big block Chevy valve cover gaskets. And the guy acts like I got two heads. He's like, "Is that a 350?" And I'm like, no, that'd be a 454, or in their terminology, a 7.4. I think that's what it is anyway, 7 point something. So anyway, he looks it up, he finds it. I'm like, "Sorry, we don't have that in stock. You'll have to order it." And fortunately, I should be able to get one tomorrow, so it shouldn't hold us up for this weekend. But at first it was like Tuesday. I'm like, "No, I can't finish if it's Tuesday." So he found another one that should be ready tomorrow, or actually later tonight. So that's where we're at with that. I was like pretty bummed. Of course, I can't start it today anyway, so really having to wait on the valve cover gaskets is no big deal. But again, you know, our goal is to dry it in. So we're working towards that. So let's keep working. Here's a little bit of a challenge, not a huge challenge, but a little one. These rockers have been installed before, okay? So this little ball, half ball, whatever you want to call it, kind of belongs to this rocker now. They've worn in together, you know, probably, I'm guessing I've probably put, I don't know, see, this car had, I don't know, I've put probably maybe 50, 80,000 miles on this engine since the last time I've been in it, and these little things always freak me out. But anyway, so we're gonna put the valves, the rockers on there, right? We got it all nice and lubed up. So we're gonna put the rocker on there, but I don't really want to put this in there dry. Now I can go ahead and stick it in that red lube, which is probably the better idea now that I think about it. But I also have some other goo that I thought about just pouring. Let's see how that works. But you don't want to mix them up, is what I'm saying. So I'm going to try pouring this lube, this green stuff from Federal Mogul. Yeah, that's it. And see if I can just get a good coating in there and then slide them on. If that doesn't work, then we'll go ahead and dip my little half-moony thingies. And that's a technical term, by the way. So you call up Summit Racing, you say, I need some of those half-moony thingies. No, don't do that. They'll say, what? They'll probably get it if you explain where they go. They're like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. But yeah, that's not what they're called. I'm just kidding. But anyway, that's nice and slickery. Woohoo! But I'm going to put these in with that green stuff. I've never used this before, but because this is not critical, as long as it's lubed, we're happy. We're going to try this stuff and see how it works. See, it's Federal Mogul assembly lube, and it seems like it's pretty sticky. Sticky is really what you want. So we're going to pour a little on here, in here, and we're going to see just how well it works. Of course, I can't see nothing. So we're going to just pour a little in there. That seems to be working okay. Alright. And we're going to just slide this in here. It'd be faster if I could just run them all in there at once. I think that'll work. But unfortunately, I can't do that and then keep track. I guess I could, but keep track of the half-moony thingies. So I'm just going to do them one at a time. That way, guaranteed to not mix things up. Ew, it's definitely sticky. So I'm guessing it's going to work. The idea of the sticky is so it stays in place until you actually start the engine. So you want your assembly lubes to be sticky. Sticky but slickery. I know that's kind of weird, but that's the way it is. And I've got a little bug flying around that I guess wants to be part of the build, because if he gets into this sticky lubricant, it's going to become part of the engine. Fortunately, bugs, as long as you don't get too many, are very soft, and they shouldn't hurt anything. Of course, I have seen like lots of bugs inside of an old engine, and they will clog up your screen. So you don't want like a bug nest in there or anything, but if you get one little tiny gnat, it's not going to hurt you at all. So let's keep going. Keep going. Now, if I take this and I run my hand around it, I can feel that it's got some little edges on it from where it has worn into that rocker. And so that's the reason why we want to make sure we put the same half moon back inside the same rocker arm. Just for that reason, because they do basically wear themselves in. And so you want to make sure you don't mix them up. Will it hurt it? Maybe, maybe not. Could cause excessive wear. But it's always best to keep, same with rod bearings, main bearings, anything like that. It's always best to return them to whence they came, shall we say. Make sure it's clean. Since I'm going to have to be turning this engine to set the valves, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put the harmonic balancer on here. And again, I'm going to use some of this green stuff because I got it. You know what I mean? So we're going to put a little bit on there. And then we're going to just kind of ooze it up. I'm also going to put some on the seal. I want some on the seal. Because you never want to put a seal in dry. So a little bit of Earl. And then also some on the seal. Do I need to use assembly lube for the seal? No, not really. I can use regular oil for that, but again, if it's willing to stick to it for any length of time, the longer it stays lubricated, the better. So we're going to go ahead and use the assembly lube. All of this is much, much easier in on an engine stand, but we don't have that luxury right now, so this is my tool. Never had one of these for many, many years. So I used to put them on the old school way, which is basically, you know, I think that's, is that it? Nope. There we go. You know, beat them on with a hammer or pull them in with the, once you get them in far enough, you can pull them in with the bolt. But the problem with that is you can strip the bolts. I mean, strip the threads inside the crank, and then you're screwed. You've got to retap them, helicoil, whatever the case may be. Now, if you'll notice, I'm trying to screw this tool in as far as I can, because you don't want to tighten it up in there, but you do want to put it in there as far as you can, because you don't want to strip those threads, right? So we're just going to keep going until it kind of snugs itself. There we go. I think that works. Yep. Okay. So it's just bottomed out. We're going to leave it that way. Now I just got to get this size, which I think is 5/8, and that should push that bad boy on there. As you can see, it's going on pretty darn easy, right? Which is what you want. You don't want it to be a humdinger going on. If you have to force it on, some ting wong. You know that old Chinese guy, some ting wong? Yep, with my head in the way. So we just gotta keep on cranking on the ratchet. According to these instructions or specs, I guess, it says that up in here, it says that the intake valves are to be 20 thousandths clearance or lash, and the exhaust valves are to be 24. So I've got the feeler gauge set up, and we're going to do just that, and I'll explain to you how. Right now, there are several valves at bottom dead center, if you will. Okay? And so basically what that means is the lobe looks like an egg, right? So on that egg, there's the pointy part of the egg, and then there's the bottom or round part of the egg. So that's on the bottom. These cam lobes are basically eggs, okay? Just because I live on a chicken farm doesn't mean, you know, everything is eggs around here, but it kind of is, okay? And so if you'll look here in the valley, you'll see this one's not quite all the way down. That one is, and you can look in the cam, because you can see the cam. Now for me it's a little dark, so I'm going to get my flashy light. Alright, so I can see inside on the cam. Now you can obviously tell that one's up, but some of them are down quite a ways. That one's definitely down all the way. That one's definitely down all the way. And several of these are too. This one definitely looks down all the way. This one, I can't quite see, it needs to come this way a little bit. But you want to be on the very bottom of that lobe. Now why that has no lube on it, I do not know. How can that be? I'm looking at this lobe here and it doesn't look like it has any of the gray lube like all the other ones. That's weird. We might have to fix that. Okay, well anyway, it's got other lube. It's got plenty of lube period on it, but the gray stuff maybe scraped off when we turned it. I don't know. Yeah, that one's starting to do the same. Okay. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, okay, let's get back to basics here. I got a little distracted by that. Didn't expect it to clean off quite that fast. I can see the gray lube underneath the lifter, but just not on the lobe. So anyhow, this one I can see. It's definitely at the bottom. Okay, that one definitely on the bottom. So I'm going to show you a couple of these, how we work it, and what I'm going to do is, see, this one's loose. Okay. We're going to run my feeler gauge up underneath. See how it goes really super duper easy? Well, I'm going to keep doing that until it tightens up. It's getting there. Alright, that's pretty darn good right there. It's a little bit loose, but I want it a little bit loose just because when the engine heats up, I've got to redo this, and this is going to end up being a tight one. So we'll end up backing it off. But that's pretty good right there. Okay, so let's see. We got any others that are down? These two look like they're pretty close to down, so we'll go ahead and do these. We're going to end up adjusting some of these over and over again. Again, we're just doing the intake valves right now. Starting to tighten up. Okay, there you go. Yep. Okay, that one's good too right now. Okay, again, tiny bit loose, but you can feel the friction on here, but just a tad, which is just about perfect. Yeah, I've got to go get the phone, so I'll be right back. I've moved over to this side because all the ones, well, actually I still got a couple more over there, but we've got this one, and both of these can also be set. This one's still up a little, but that one can be set. That one can be set. These two are slightly up, so we'll set them, but then we're going to have to reset them, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to go ahead and get all of the ones that are on the bottom of the egg, shall we say, and we're going to adjust each one of those. I've got this one ready to adjust, so we'll go ahead and do one more while y'all are looking. This is on the other side, so that's kind of, actually it's, boy, I did that by eye, and I'd say that one's right on the money, and I just did that by feel. Dang! Chuck went up for the Dave on that one. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do all these, and I'll tune y'all back in once I get to turning the engine and bringing some of these down and those up and blah, 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 blah. Alright? So just stand, unless you want to sit here and watch for an hour while I sit here and set all of these valves. Yeah, that's what I thought you'd say. Okay, so stay tuned. It'll be like a second for you. It'll be like an hour for me. But anyway, I'm going to finish doing the ones I can. I'm going to turn the engine, and we'll do the same thing again. But I'll turn y'all back in when I turn the engine. Alright, now, watch carefully at, let's say that one, because that's the one, well, maybe either one of those. See, they're both up kind of high. So I am going to turn this engine. Watch this one in particular. The other one has already gone down just in a little bit. There's one here. It's coming up. But we're going to go until we see that one go down. So keep on going. We're going to have to push down on it because there's no pressure on it. But you can see the lobe starting to bottom out. And there we go. Okay, so it's all the way down. It's about a quarter of a turn. Every quarter turn, you're going to come up to a whole new set of valves at bottom dead center. So we're going to go ahead and adjust the ones that are down, and we'll do this again 4 times, 5 times, 4 times, I think. Basically 2 full revolutions of the engine. And that should make sure we've got them all. I've already got my feeler gauge set for 24. That's actually 25. I didn't have a 24. So I'm just setting the 25 real tight. And that should be close enough. I'd rather have too much than not enough. Too much to be noisy. Not enough breaks things. So I'm going to go through here and do some more. I've got my trusty self-made oil tool, and I'm going to spin this until I start seeing oil in here. Make sure you can see that. Oh yeah. Anywhere in here we want to start seeing oil. Okay? Starting to feel pressure. I guess I better get my glasses because I can't see if she's pumping oil up here or not. It's not splashing down here anymore, obviously, because we have the lifters in. And it has to get through the lifters to get up in here. This one looks like it's really wet, but I did pour some oil on those. I guess I should have let them dry so I could tell. Maybe we'll put a little light on the subject too. And we'll see. Problem with Corvettes is they don't have any metal. So I'm going to spin this. I got my glasses on now so I can see what I'm doing. I'm not seeing any coming out of here, but it might be because the lifters aren't going up and down. I was kind of hoping to see it put some oil up in this area, but I'm not seeing that, unfortunately. I can feel that the oil's pumping for sure, but I'm not seeing any of it come up to the top end. So maybe we'll go some more. The thing with this is you have to make sure you're in the middle. There we go. Well, okay, I can see it oozing out of this one because it's pushing the assembly lube through. So it must have to do with the position of the lifters, because none of these are doing anything that I can see. Yeah, but this bank I can see, so it must have to do with the position of the lifters. I guess they only get a shot of oil. I guess that's why they squirt when it's running. Never knew that. Learned something new today. Just goes to show, folks, that nobody knows it all, especially not me. Unfortunately, my day has come to an end. I've got to get ready to go to work tomorrow morning, and got to get in and get some dinner. So this is going to be my stopping point. I am going to, just for the heck of it, put these on. But I didn't get the gaskets in. They were supposed to deliver them, and they never did. So good help is hard to find. But anyway, we'll get those on there. We're not going to get the intake on. I've still got a bunch of work I got to do to the intake. So that's not going to make it. What that means is we're going to have to go one more weekend with my lovely dressing here. But at least it's a little further along. I got it closed up over there. When the gaskets come in, you know, we'll just gonna keep that like so, just to keep the dirt out. And then I'll just throw my fender cover over it like I did last time. Here we go. We got this far. I've got basically the valve cover sitting there. I was waiting for gaskets. They were supposed to deliver them today, but nope, they forgot. And I drove right by there and forgot to pick them up, so they were all the same. And I took my kid out for breakfast this morning, so, and then I had church, and so anyway, yada yada yada. Pretty busy. Okay. So I do apologize for not getting further. I did want to get the intake manifold and the valve covers on this engine and dry it in. But we're not far from that. I mean, literally gaskets, right? The gaskets come in, and we're setting it on there and putting the valve covers on. I've already primed it, so we should be good on there. Everything's full, ready to go. And because the oil pump is now submerged in oil, it should not backfeed. So it should stay primed. And it won't be too terribly long before we run this thing. We still got to put the transmission in. I've got one spark plug wire there. Will not come off because of the headers. These headers are absolutely horrible for your spark plug wires. They're like closer than an ant fart to the headers. So I had to buy, and I'll explain that when we go to put them on. I had to buy ceramic wires, the ceramic tipped ones, which they're great. I recommend them for anybody with headers. But the problem with it is the ones I bought were the 90 degree, and I really needed the 45 degree. And so I bought another set. I'm going to use the 90 degrees on my AMX project with the small block. Hopefully they'll work for that. It's a supercharged car, so and the headers are a little more spacious. There's a little bit more roomy in there than this thing. But so that's that, and we'll get into all of that. I don't want to sit here and talk. I mean, it's the end of the video. You can always shut it off. Say, I'm not listening to all that junk. But that's where we're at. I do apologize. We didn't get as far as I wanted to this weekend. We got close, taking and adjusting the valves. That took a while. You guys saw just a short bit of it, a few valves here and there. But I mean, I literally turned the engine 2 full times and adjusting as I go. And I'll still need to adjust. Now, once we heat this engine up, we'll be pulling the valve covers again. In fact, I may just use the old valve cover gaskets for now because they got to come back off again anyway. So we might do that. But nonetheless, we're going to get this car finished up hopefully in the next few weeks. Again, depending on what kind of interruptions I get. Most of the weeks I only have one day because one day is taken up with the honeydews and the gotta-dos and you gotta get to do's. And then I get one day where I try to put aside. It's usually Sunday, which I have church, so it gives me roughly maybe 5 or 6 hours. It may be a little longer, but today's cold, it's wet, and I'm tired and cold. Mostly cold. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. For you that have subscribed, you rock. Thank you very, very much for my subscribers. You're the reason I do this, right? I mean, I'm going to do this anyway because it's what I do. I enjoy doing this. This is my hobby, my stress reliever. I just love it. I love it. And, sharing it with you is just, it's fun. Makes it a little bit more fun knowing somebody else can enjoy the passion that I have for cars. Some think I'm an idiot. You're probably not wrong. And then some people really enjoy the show, and I appreciate that. Whether you love it or hate it, if you're watching it, cool, right? Thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe. See ya.